Hello, everyone, and welcome to the January 16th regular Legislative Committee meeting of the Town of Vegreville. Call this meeting to order at 3 o'clock. And first order of business, I'll be looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Berry makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions? Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
I'd like to make an addition. I would like to briefly touch on the Transportation Committee, Ad hoc Transportation Committee.
Okay, so do you want to do that? We'll go to you first in the round table and you can give a...
That would be fine.
Okay, thank you very much. So, anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next up, I'll need a motion for the adoption of the minutes of our last regular meeting. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Any errors or deletions in those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So this looks like it's going to be something that's going to be on our agenda quite regularly now. So we're having quarterly progress reports. And we're going to start with Tony Tantishin, the Municipal Service Manager. Tony, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Tony as well, if that's all right, because I had it all prepped and then you did it, so.
So you're saying I did something wrong, Dale?
No, you didn't. I just wanted to add to it. I just want people to know that what the Municipal Services Manager's position entails is he's in charge of the fleet, procurement of fleet items, the fleet repair. He's looks after the recycling, the collection of recycling, the processing and shipping of our recycled materials. He looks after the solid waste collection and the operations of our Class 2 landfill as well.
Seems like quite a bit to do.
Busy guy.
Okay, without further ado.
There. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We'll just go through my quarterly progress report. First off is the gravel for the landfill, and that is basically just on a little bit of a hold till it warms up a little. I am getting some quotes and stuff from different people to get purchase the gravel and stuff like that, but at this point, there's not a whole bunch I can fill you in on that point of it. Next one is loader tires, to replace the loaders on 534, which is our big new loader that we use for snow blowing and stuff like that. And those tires that come off that are going to go to another loader, 313, which is Parks is using. So, and those same with that, I've got getting quotes on that and availability on the tires for that unit also. And then is the compactor cylinder that's for our refuge trucks. And what this cylinder does, it's the big one inside that pushes the plunger, and it compacts all the garbage in the barrel and stuff like that, so we can get more bins put in instead of running with loose loads. And that one I got out getting quotes for that also, for the cylinder to replace, to have that cylinder.
Tony?
Yes.
We have budgeted for the replacement for cylinders on these trucks over the years. I'm noticing probably 8 years ago, we were doing it for about 10, 12,000.
Yes.
And then the last one was about 15, 16, and now I'm seeing a 24,000, just to show the sign of the times out there when what it costs more to maintain your equipment than it did 10 years ago.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's everything is going up in costs. So as everybody is aware that.
And we've looked at a rebuild on the cylinder as well.
The problem with most of the times where we got to get them rebuilt, the chroming is gone. And by the time we got to start re-chroming them, it ends up costing more than it was to buy a new cylinder. So I had 2 this summer taken in to checked out, and we made 1 out of the 2 of them. We rebuilt the 1 of them, but it was really close to what it would have been to get a new one, but there was no new one available at the time, and we needed one, so I got it done. But now I'm looking to have another one because we got some other ones, like 108 has a fair amount of hours on it, so it's just going to be a matter of time till we have to replace that one. So I want to have one on hand to do it when the time comes. So.
Excellent.
The next is our parts washer for the shop, and since I put this report out, we actually have purchased it, and it's sitting in the shop right now. We are just getting it wired today, actually, so we can use it. And at this time, I'm coming under budget on it, which is awesome. And we also purchased it in town locally from bumper to bumper, so It worked out really good. We put out quotes all over and they actually come up with the best quote for us. So we did buy it from them in town. So that's the reason I think we got it so quick, is because it was just the way it worked out. It worked out, the timing was perfect, I guess, is the way to put it, so.
And this parts washer doesn't use a solvent.
No, it's all water and detergent. So, the only majority of it you could just flush out and let it go, but if it's got a lot of oil in it, then we have to hydrovac it and stuff like that, depending on the amount of oil and stuff that's caught in the water. But that will be at the time, and what we have to, they said if we follow the hours they kind of give us for it, then we probably won't have to do that, because it won't have enough of oil and stuff to contaminate the water and detergent that's in there at that time, so. It recycles the water, yeah, at the present time, and then you flush it and put new water in again, but you just keeps recycling the water through.
It skims the oil part, possibly?
Yes, it does have a skimmer too, but you still do collect a little bit in the water, right, so. Next one is the half tons, and this one is for the Public Works Department. And I actually just got the last quote today for it, so I got the quotes from all three dealers in town. I just have to go through them now and make sure everything's apples to apples, and then award that to whatever dealer comes with the best and more suitable to what we need, I guess is the way to put it, so.
Did all three of them come with a block heater priced in there?
All three of them have block heaters priced in, yes.
Okay, good thing.
That isn't automatic, you know.
I know, our youngest got a brand new Jeep, and we found out last week that she doesn't have a block heater in it.
My kid too.
Yeah, it's, you have to put it as optional, otherwise it doesn't come with it, so. And then the last one is for the new waste truck or refuse truck. And at this point, that is on APC, so it is out for request for quotes. And the closing date on that is January 30th at 12 o'clock. So at that point, we'll go through the quotes and award it to whoever is the lucky bidder at the time, so.
And what's the ETA once we order it?
They're saying we will have it in 2025, but probably the third or fourth quarter of 2025, so.
Good.
Not quite as bad as the last one. It's improving. If that's an improvement. Is there any questions for Tony? That's the last of his items that he was asked with for budget.
Anybody? Counselor Rudy, go ahead.
I do have a quick question. Some of the first items, like gravel and the loader tires, for example, is there any way for us to be able to use procurement through joint or mass procurement through Alberta Munis or through RMA?
I actually do go through them for pricing and stuff, and that's why most of the big equipment tires, we go through like Cal Tire and them, is because they go through AUMA and all those kind of programs, so that's where we find that we get the best prices by going through them, yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Tony. And stay warm.
You too, thank you.
Okay, next up. Do you need an introduction, or is it okay if I just introduce you? How do you want to do that? Dan Kuzmic, Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Manager. Take it away.
All right, well, I did a little presentation on what was going on during our extreme cold the last week, just to keep you guys in the loop of what we were dealing with. So if you look at your televisions there. Perfect, I'll just read it, then we can go through it. So in early January 2024, the province of Alberta experienced an extreme cold weather event that started roughly on January 10th, ending January 16th. During that time, a dangerously cold Arctic wind began to spread across the province. As of Thursday, the 11th, temperatures across much of the province were hovering around the -40s with a biting wind chill that made it feel more like -50. As a result of the extreme cold temperatures, the town of Vegreville's facilities started to succumb to the conditions on Friday, January the 12th, resulting in town employees and third parties working and still working diligently to rectify all the issues that arose in the facilities from the extreme conditions. The next page is just some of our buildings and some of the issues we were dealing with. So at the recreation center, we had 2 furnaces that weren't working Friday. The front entrances and the back entrance sliding doors froze shut. They weren't working. The lobby and guest services and office areas were at about 14 to 16 degrees due to the furnaces not working. We ended up cracking the domestic hot water tank that supplies the swimming pool. Thank goodness we have another backup one there. The hot tub boiler went down, and the glycol lines on the ice plant froze. So that doesn't happen until -40.
Wow.
So that comes outside the building, cools down on that back condenser. You can see by the bottom right picture, we had to tarp it all up, put a heater in there to try to keep the ice plant running, so. The good note, it was cold enough, we didn't lose the ice. So some of the other buildings, the town office, our rooftop HVAC system went down for the FSCS department. The air and heat flow in the IP&D office wasn't working the greatest. Dale's office was a little chilly, so we had to rectify that.
13.5.
At the post office, we had our boilers go down and some of our heating issues as well due to that. Social center and the event center, our main water supply line froze coming into the buildings on both of them. You can see I stuck a picture so you can see what they look like. Again, we wrapped them up, put the Herman Nelson in there, heated them up, get them flowing again. Come on, fingers. Next is the library. If you look real closely at these pictures, we had a broken water line, and the heat in the gymnasium was a pain in the butt. The top pictures, the 4, you can see the broken water on the copper tubing. You can see the rain falling down in the lobby of the other one. So it created a big mess and headache to clean up, but the crews are on it pretty quick.
The library was closed on Friday, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So we had nobody in the building.
Nope.
And when did we discover this break?
Fairly quickly, somebody reported it, and we ran down there and found it, so. It didn't do tons of damage to the flooring, thank goodness, but just where it broke was right above your entrance, and it's where the water ran to. Multiplex, we had a broken fire suppression line, which you can see in the top corner of the right there, if you look real closely, and some of the damage to the rug just got wet. The VMRF and cemetery shop had heating issues with their tube heaters. All that's been rectified and fixed. So just a quick conclusion at the end. I said staff and third parties have been working diligently to get the facilities operational. We're currently up and running at roughly about 85%. We're waiting for parts for the library and the FCSS HVAC. Once they're installed, we should be up and running at 100%. I don't know the financial impact as of yet, as we're still waiting for all those invoices and bills to come in. To be a little proactive now, we're starting to do a building checklist of all our facilities. We're gonna be doing those twice a day. If it hits anywhere from -25 and more, we'll probably do them 3 to 4 times a day, just so we can catch our own stuff and try to fix that. That's just a little bit of what we've been dealing with, so.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Warwick.
This isn't specifically about the breaks, but just as an overall, do we actually have a temperature that is like a shutdown temperature on our facilities? I don't know if places do, I just wondered if we do, and if it is, what it is.
I don't believe we do, but it's something we were discussing, we should probably come up with to some kind of degree. At what point does it outweigh? If we're gonna continually damage them by operating, maybe we close some of those doors.
Go ahead, Councillor Rudick.
Well, I'll start by saying thank you. It was pretty uncommonly cold weather, and for our staff and third parties that have been able to bring the operations back online so quickly, thank you. It wasn't easy to be out working in those conditions, so thank you for that. I do have a question about prevention in the future, just because it seems, actually, I'll ask first, were there any facilities that did not have challenges in the cold?
No.
Okay, that's what it seemed like. It seemed like an exhaustive list of all of our facilities.
Something new every day, and I can't thank our crew enough. Without those guys, we'd have been hooped, so
There was no problems at the outdoor arena.
that is true, or our skating ponds.
Yeah, the ice thickness was just fine. I guess the one thing that I see missing, I I like the suggestion that you'll do regular checks at the end, but I do wonder if there's a policy. I was quite surprised to see, or not surprised to see, the arena was full parking lot all weekend, even at the most bitterly cold. And some of our restaurants were very busy all weekend long, didn't matter the temperature, as I took kids to work. But I wonder if there isn't also reporting for the citizens of the community too. If, you know, the water main break at the library, I don't know how it was caught, but is there a way to be able to phone those in? Is there an access point? We've got the ability on our website to be able to report if there's a variety of issues. Is this something that we can do when it's extreme cold as a hot button to put on the website, or a way to be able to have the public be able to interact and find out quickly?
Well, we do, on our website, we have a 24-hour public works line, but we've also introduced a 24-hour bylaw line, which can also be used, like, when it comes to extreme weather, and if you notice something, if that happens to be the one number that you have, you can contact it, and they will get to us too, through that line. But yeah, we do have numbers on the website that allow our citizens to call in 24 hours.
So yesterday morning, CAO Ling and myself had a conversation before her senior management meeting. And I think that it's something that senior management's gonna talk about a little bit here, and they're gonna come back with a policy, what they feel would be. I mean, it's something, we don't see these type of conditions all the time, but when the library's shutting down and there's nobody in there, and, you know, what's our policy? And I know that we're looking at a minus 25 to 30 to start checking on, which I do regularly, every piece of property I own in town, I drive by, you know, 3 or 4 times a day to make sure there's still smoke coming out of the top. But again, you know, the pool is a very harsh environment, the humidity levels, and when it gets that cold, and we know that those sliding doors, those Stanley doors and stuff are not cheap to maintain and to look after. So I would expect, you know, sometime before, you know, the third quarter, that we'll get something, a recommendation from senior staff about this. And again, there's some other things that we talked about too, when it comes to emergency services and where we're at in each building and stuff as we're building this new emergency service, or this new emergency plan. There's some items in there that we need to look at too. So I know that CAO Ling has taken that up, and we'll get a report back about best practices and a recommendation from the senior staff. So, okay. So Dan, thank you very much. And I never really thought that it got too cold for a chiller, but
Me neither, I've never seen it before. So, like I said, I can't thank our staff enough, or we'd have been hooped.
well, on behalf of myself and council, you make sure you let them all know that we know that they put in a lot of extra time and hopefully held the damages to a minimum. We know that, especially this rooftop over here over FCSS, that thing that gets cold in the summertime, that one.
Yeah,
I think we just leave that ladder there.
just leave that.
Anyway, I'll let them know that we appreciate them going the extra mile and coming out in those conditions, and,
I most definitely will.
okay, thank you very much. Was there any other comments or questions? Okay. Next up, Director Lefebvre. Hold it, sorry, you still have the junior B. Oh, yeah.
Wasn't gonna say nothing. Till you guys brought it up. So you've all seen the letter that the junior B sent. Just need to know what your guys' direction would be, if you have any questions regarding it.
Well, it's basically the same letter that we received a while ago.
Yeah. So we're just putting all the information together, and I haven't reached out to them yet. Where our plan was to do it early this first quarter, so.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, and I definitely appreciate that. I would say I appreciated when they put it in as early as they did. And I know that when you're planning a big event, and I believe they have quite a bit going on for their 50th, it is a long time in the planning, so the sooner we can probably get them some answers, because I don't know if they might potentially be looking for sponsorship for some of the things they do. I just know that in planning how long it takes, I look at this being somewhat like when we hosted provincials. in minor hockey and some of what it goes there. Although I'm thinking before we're able to answer them back, probably some of their stuff is impacted also by another agreement that also is sitting and hasn't been dealt, so.
And again, this wasn't in my lap till a little while ago, so.
But I would just say that I know that some of these things, if you're trying to get sponsorship from groups and whatnot, can take quite a bit, so probably the sooner we can
Yeah.
let them know exactly where we're at, the better.
Go ahead.
So just to clarify, in the letter, it refers to the conversation at our July 11th meeting. And is it usually the practice that all user groups of a facility like this would be brought in and have these conversations, or do you do them one at a time? And how do you mediate those differing interests?
So we usually have 3 meetings a year with all our user groups of the ice. So we've been doing that for ball now, starting next week, actually starting tomorrow with a ball meeting. Trying to do that with all of our user groups who use our facilities, just to see what it is. But a contract or anything like that would have to be done on a one-on-one basis. You don't want to bring up everything somebody's getting, somebody's not getting in front of the whole group, right?
For sure. And I guess the last part of my question would be maybe something that you can't answer right away, but how do we mediate those varying interests? Because some of the user groups are volunteer organizations, some of them are youth organizations, some of them are businesses. And how do we ensure that there is appropriate access to town-owned facilities for a variety of user groups with a variety of interests and a variety of influence?
So most non-for-profit, so I'll use minor hockey, to me, they get our priority ice, right? For the children, that's why people pay taxes, that's why we have our youth, our arenas and facilities, then come in for our for-profit groups. So if you had a men's hockey, that would be for-profit. A junior B is for-profit, or junior A is for-profit, junior B is for-profit. Anything for-profit would get what's left over.
Okay, well, that answers some of the questions. Let's go with the first one. Dressing rooms 1 and 2, the Wally Fadoon Arena dedicated. Can we do that?
No.
Okay, then let them know.
But to satisfy them, we could let them paint it, their colors, and use
Sure.
it on their game day. I have no problem with that.
Do we have any more storage at ice level as well as upstairs in the common area?
No, we're tapped for
Okay,
storage.
there's another no. Work together with the town to build a players' dressing stalls and additional ventilation suitable to make the room more usable for larger junior team. Now, we have a contract with another team in there, and they took and did this all on their own, correct?
We were 50-50 split on that wall.
On the stalls?
Yeah. No, the stalls were all on their own, yeah. Yeah, we didn't do anything but to accommodate that extra room where they put that sliding door in.
Yeah, on that sliding door, yeah.
That was a 50-50 split.
Yeah, okay. So I think as we go through this, the logo, we're still, that's a bit of a contentious thing right now, and we're getting some direction from our legal on that contract, which we need to sign a new contract with the other team. So that one can be answered before next year.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so I think we can pretty much go through them all and let them know. The first right of refusal for games and practices, that's probably not going to happen. We don't give anybody that other than minor hockey, correct?
Well, you give your under first right of refusal for your current contract with your other junior team.
Oh, that they're paying full price.
They pay $185, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
prime time ice.
Okay, so we can probably let them know that too. Is anybody here disagreeing with anything I'm saying?
No.
Or is it just too blunt? Because, I mean, this question's been out there, and of course, we haven't said anything to them yet, and that was in July. So I can see why they're wondering why we haven't got back to them. So let's get back to them.
Definitely.
So is there anything else on here? They're not sharing the skate sharpener right now?
I think they use it, they have access to it. Everybody has access to it. So whether they're sharpening their skates or not, I couldn't tell you offhand, but minor hockey does, other junior team does. It's all in there for public use.
Okay, the handrails,
We're looking into that as we speak, so that'll be part of my update coming up in the next few weeks.
And that may, sorry. I was just gonna mention that one, because that's one I brought up before. If there's some way to address it, I actually was at a minor hockey game just before Christmas, and I did sort of see somebody almost take. And if there's some way, we can at least have one area. I know we do have the elevator, but it'd be good to have at least one section that had the handrail if possible. Some people still like to be outside for those.
There definitely is a way to address it. And
Just some U-shaped pipes at the end of each bench.
you got that, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Straight down with.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so we can address that.
it's done, yeah.
A lower rate for ice time. No.
And we pay what our prime time ice when their games are, and practice ice if they want a cheaper rate, has to be during the day, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so that's another no.
unless they want to practice at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the day, they can get a lower ice price.
Have transparent dialogue of communications with other users of the facility and staff of the town of Vegreville. So,
We do that already, as far as I'm concerned, we have 3 meetings a year, so.
okay, well, I think, go ahead, Councilor Rudick.
Okay, so I do think that as a non-hockey parent at this time in my life, there are a few things here that are unclear to me that maybe would be helpful for me to understand. Two, can you potentially explain to me how minor hockey is a not-for-profit volunteer organization for youth, how that is different from Junior B or our other business that rents a facility and/or Veg Skating Club? So the difference between the Junior A and the Junior B teams, for example.
They're both in it to make money, right? Minor hockey doesn't really make any money, nor does figure skating. So they would, to me, and the other facilities I've ran, they get their first option, right?
Okay, and I guess the other part that I think is going to be important, I think the mayor just touched on it too, is that, for example, even the use of the skate sharpener, I think some of those things, some of the facilities, particularly when there's been generational usage of the facilities, the ice, the dressing rooms, the common areas, there tends to be a practice that's separate from policy potentially, or things that at this table we decide. So it's important to continue to have those conversations in terms of being specific and explicit about what's available for all user groups, just so that it doesn't turn into people that don't have the authority to be able to direct one another. So, for example, groups wouldn't be telling each other who is responsible for using which parts of the facility or booking.
That all comes from us.
For sure. And I think it would also be really clear, important to make clear to all user groups when you have these 3 times a year meetings, who they contact. Because, for example, some of our staff have been there for decades and very experienced and familiar faces to a lot of the user group members. But those workers, valuable in our team, are not the ones that make the decisions. So it would be important to direct that back up to your staff.
So they all do that currently, and they come back to us, and we give every team and member that comes to these meetings letters of the minutes and everything as well. We mail them out to them.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear, because I think clear communication will prevent some of the challenges, because of course we have the same goal in the end, whether it's council, your staff, or all of these user groups, is having great recreational opportunities for the community. So
Totally agree, and communication was one of the part that we promised to work on, so it is definitely an ongoing thing.
good.
Go ahead.
I guess just one follow-up, just, sorry, Councilor Rudick, because you mentioned this, and I just think it is a point we should be clear on, though. I appreciate and actually completely agree that we have that priority with the nonprofit for the minor. We should clarify a little bit, though, that there is still a difference between the Junior B and the Junior A in their status, and the fact that I understand what we're saying there. We can't typically say, though, that the Junior B is considered a for-profit, just in the fact of they're not owned by an entity. They're still a board, just like the minor would be. Of course, there's differences, in some of what they can do, and we're talking about a primarily adult group, but I just did want to make that clarification. However, because of that, because they are a different entity, there's a different standard applied to the Junior A team where they're requiring a contract, where the Junior B team doesn't require a contract because they're a nonprofit. I just kind of wanted to clarify that, because, we don't want to suggest that they're making money, because everybody on their board would be a volunteer board and they'd be required to have a board. Sorry, I just thought I should
Well, that's perfect, thank you.
clarify.
Okay, so moving forward, we can answer majority of these questions, and there's no sense putting it off. We need to work on that contract with the Junior A team as quickly as we can, and then we're gonna break out the logo. What's gonna happen with the logo? If it's a one-off on the 50th year, well, we need to take a look at that. We all know we're working towards trying to get a better facility in the next few years, which would accommodate a lot bigger dressing rooms and stuff. We don't have the ability, and I'm sure you've told the Junior B Rangers that we don't have that ability to build on to this facility, and we need those dressing rooms. We made the decision on the full-time dressing rooms when they didn't have their program running. We didn't have a major ice user at the time. So moving forward, we need to address the contract with the other team. We need to talk about what's going to happen with the logo next year. And we're moving forward to try to find information about this new rec center. And that's what we can do. So I don't think we need to have them wait any longer. I mean, we should answer their questions, what can be done and what we see as realistic.
Okay. I'll reach out to them.
Excellent. Is there any other comments on this matter? So CAO Ling will get together and we'll start coming up with a plan on the new contract for the junior A team. And we'll break some pieces out of there that we can. I mean, I think we all feel that the logo for their 50th year, it would be good. I think that it was a point that we were going to be selling that space. That's what we were trying to get to. So that's another conversation that we need to have about, trying to offset, what it costs to run these facilities through sponsorship programs like this. So we'll have that conversation and we'll let them all know what we can do. So excellent. Thank you. Next up, Director Lefebvre.
Thank you, Worship. We've included in this agenda the annual Vegreville Materials Recovery Facility Annual Report for 2023. This typically comes to council first, and then after this meeting, our CEED manager will be pushing this out to social media and send it out to the public. So I don't know if I need to get into the details in fine. Just in a nutshell, the bales produced for this year, for 2023, was, 910 bales. We've shipped out 836 this year. We still have a couple loads that have to go out yet, and Tony Timtition, our manager that looks after this, who's sitting behind me, also noted that we have 2 trailers full and ready to go, plus some inventory, because we're lining up a custom hauler to bring our cardboard bales in. So that should be heading out here very soon. As we go through it quickly, I see that the document destruction and our paper shred is doing good business. It's following the plan to pay for the paper shred that we had purchased. It'll be paid for, I believe it's going to be, Tony, now about 3.5 years for payment, as opposed to the 5 we predicted, because the revenues are up and people are starting to use it more. And I'll get into some of the changing things that are happening in recycling in our community and probably the country. We list the toners and the rechargeable batteries on the last page of the report, and the rechargeable and single-use batteries are something that are coming in. Here's some of our stats. It's the best year we've had for recycling these types of products. You can bring them to the VMRF and drop them off. We ask that you tape the ends of them off, so when you put them in containers, they don't touch and cause problems in shipping. Last year, the batteries last year was just about 1 ton, 0.987. So what's a ton of batteries? So if you do some Googling and figure out how many ounces one weighs and convert it all, and then talk to Phyllis Sarita, who's lead hand at the VMRF, and she confirmed with a good estimate on the size. So we're looking at just over 40,000 batteries that we've pulled out of our community in 1 year. And our history has been quite well for the battery recycling. So it's just, if you could just fathom 40,000 batteries that aren't going into landfill and getting buried, that are getting processed now and shipped out. I want Tony to just iterate on what's changed in battery recycling. At one point, we were doing the pickup, we were shipping, we were boxing, packaging, we were sending them out. But now we have a new company sponsored through ARMA, our Alberta Management Recycling Authority, and the company is, it picks them up?
Quantum Life Cycling.
called Quantum Life Cycling, and they provide the containers. We ensure that they're packaged properly, and they pick them up and take them away at no charge to the municipality. So that's a big step forward, another win for our ARMA team out there. The other one up here is the toners. It works in a similar way now, where we're actually generating a little bit of revenue. It's not lots, whereas in the past, we had to charge for them to help. So there's a few more avenues for us to recycle the toner cartridges, which is good to see that it's still a good program for us. The one that we've been doing since 2014 and 15, and then it started to get more popular, is our recycling of the fluorescent light tubes and bulbs. Primarily, they're the 4 and 8 foot bulbs, probably primarily the 4 foot, most common. This year was 1.48 tons. So it takes a lot of bulbs to make a ton, because they're not very heavy. And Ms. Sarita from the VMRF has kept track of how many bulbs, how many feet of bulbs, and the total amount of bulbs is just over 5,000 bulbs last year that were recycled. That means we recycle the glass, we capture the gas in a filtration system, and that filtration system is collected and sent off with our annual household roundup. It gets included with the disposal of that product. Just to give you a better idea, she also keeps track of the 4 and 8 foot bulbs that are coming in and has a good record of how about 53 kilometers if you line them up. Right, Jameson, we're supposed to say we save this much is as much as 3 elephants and all that stuff. So if we lined up the bulbs one behind the other, it would be 53 kilometers long, and that's what we've collected in just this 1 year of 2023. I think it's pretty impressive. As far as operations, in going with our year-end report, I want to talk about the film plastics. I talked with lead hand Sarita and manager Tim Tishan about to get me some historical data. I'm curious to see how many film plastic quantities we have. Film plastics, obviously your grocery bags. We started to get into grocery bags into just before COVID, and we're starting to use cloth bags and reusable bags, and I wanted to see if our numbers were coming down. Then during COVID, there was a period where you couldn't bring in your own cloth bags. They started handing out plastics again, and then in early 23, they started charging you for plastic, and now it's pretty much not available hardly at all. Or if it is, you're paying more than 1 cent. It's like 5-6 cents a bag. So I went to 2018, and our film plastics was 6.6 tons. So that's 40 bales, compacted bales. Takes a lot of bags to make a bale. In 2019, it dropped to 37 bales. That's 6.1 tons. And now in 2023, that we've done pretty much a full year back on track to reducing the amount of plastic bags that the retailers hand out. We are at 25 bales, we're at 4 tons. So it's obviously come down. Like, that's an increase of about 38% since 2019, just leaving COVID out because there's a lot of weird stuff happening in COVID. So that's good to see. The last meeting, Your Worship, you asked me about plastic recycling and any costs that were maybe borne by the town to recycle, specifically plastics. The plastics cost, film plastic especially, and all plastics except number 1s and number 2s really, cost approximately right now in today's market $120 a ton to dispose of. So it takes 2 cardboard bales to make a ton or a tone, but it takes 6 plastic bales to make a tone. So when they're at the gate at Capital Paper Allied, typically it's Capital, it costs us approximately $20 per compacted bale to have it shipped off to its destination for its recycling. And I've got a little list of what that is with everything just a little later on. So the number 2 plastics, which is the high density polyethylene plastics. Number 2s are typically your laundry detergent bottles and containers that aren't for food, they're for shampoos and stuff. Those right now, we have a company, RPM, that comes out, picks the bales up, and then ships them out at no charge to us. We don't have to ship them, we don't have to pay when they go, and they're taking them and they're converting them into plastic pellets. At first I thought she said pallets, because that's possible, but it's pellets. And then they get processed into things like, again, some of them go back to bottles and containers for non-food products. A lot of it is plastic lumber, really, is where they're still trying to figure this out. I know that plastic lumber is a good place for it, but it still has its warping and bending issues in the high heat, so they're still trying to nail that down. The number 1s obviously are plastics, are bottles and food containers that get made back into plastics and for food and bottle containers like your soft drinks and whatever else comes in juices and things. So those are looking after themselves. Just a quick rundown on where does it go. Office paper, your white office papers, pretty much, it becomes paper towel and is sold back into Alberta as a no-name product. So it's locally done now, which is really good to see, instead of being really dependent on so many others. Newsprint is sold to a number of mills where it's combined with other products to make newsprint again. It's also, as you've seen in our last post, which we're pretty happy it turned out very well, was Weather Shield had come in and started picking up loads, and it will eventually make its way back to the factory to be made into insulation, to be used to warm people's homes. So that's a really cool circle of what's happening there. Tin cans the use hasn't changed. We are shipping more out. We just don't add them to the metal pile anymore. Now we get a far better dollar, and Tony's had his crews, they take them to the MRF and they actually bale them up and then haul them out that way. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we get better money. They're clean. They're not mixed in with a bunch of everything else, and it's a far better dollar. And the use of that typically is rebar for construction, for driveways and concrete works. So it all goes into rebar. We have the mixed paper used for packaging materials and shingles is a lot of it. The mixed papers that we get, and a lot of the cardboards too, if there's an abundance of them, they'll ship them out and they'll make the paper that's blended in with your asphalt roofing shingles. Then they add the rock and the asphalt and everything to it. But the base product of that household shingle is a paper product for sure. That's how it starts out. Cardboard, OCC is corrugated cardboard, and its use, because it's the prime stuff, it's the good stuff, it's nice and clean. Why they're so fussy with what you throw in the recycle bin is because it gets made back into cardboard again. So it's that product that if the quality stays up, it has a repetitive recycle life, and as it drops off, then it can go into shingles and down to other products. Like everything recycling, it starts up here and eventually it becomes a number 7, which is not really desirable for too much. The film plastics, that's your plastic bags, are still being shipped to Asian countries and being processed there for packaging and things that they do there. I know there was a stop on it a few years ago, but again, we're not shipping them garbage. It's quality stuff. It always has been. We have almost 0 contamination rate, and our product is desirable and still making it to an end user. The number 3 and number 7 plastics, there's a lot of detail as to the differences between them, but they all have challenges in recycling. Polystyrene containers, yes, you can recycle them. That's the white stuff that a TV comes in, or the old style coffee cups, the styrofoam. And they are recyclable for sure. We've had a prototype unit show up right here and do it on site. The problem is to haul enough styrene to them to make this much that can be recycled, you need a warehouse full of it. So it's not practical to ship it. Is it easy to recycle? He broke it down to a compound that he could reuse again, right on the street in the back of a 3-ton truck with some prototype unit yet going. But his problem is you can't get enough of it to make it worthwhile. So those are challenges that they're having. Things we are doing with these plaques is a mixed mix. This is right down to using your plumbing, PVC plumbing underneath your kitchen sink. It has its issues because the amount of chemicals that are in it, so it can have a lifespan of 30 to 50 years of service, but they're starting to roll that into when we recycle the other numbers plastics. All I know is that they're experimenting with things like stiff street lighting standards in the States. I know in parts of Canada, they're actually melting them down, and I've been informed that they're starting to use them for the highway traffic markers, the white posts with the black top all the way down. Those are products that they're starting to use, so it's nice to see them span out. And the more uses we have for this product, then the more the product may one day become in demand, as opposed to please take it, is what we're hoping for. I do believe that's my report.
Okay, any questions? Comments? Go ahead, Councilor Bullock.
Just wondering, for yourself and Mr. Timmishin, the recycle bins in the back alleys, have they been going well, or are they still getting the odd garbage thrown in there? Is there lots of contamination from that, or is it?
Yeah, we talked about our quality of OCC, or the corrugated cardboard that we have for most of our products, but that's a good portion of our product. And I know that I get the emails sent when Mrs. Rita sends them to Tony, to myself. Contamination is a problem, and it's real, and it's a good opportunity to bring it up here when we're live. It's because we still struggle with truckloads of stuff being hauled out. I was just talking with Tony earlier, and it was, we'll spend 12, 15 loads, we'll go out in a day because it's contaminated. And what is it contaminated with? Well, sometimes it's parts and hoses from repairs to automotive or ag or something, and it's a lot of hydraulic oils and things that get in the wrong bin. Unfortunately, they face things like human diapers and infant diapers that get in, and when they get compacted with the cylinder Tony was just talking about, it does make a mess. And then that load's contaminated, but we don't know until it hits the floor, and then it's cleanup time. So all those things go out and after, and it's disappointing because the effort's gone in. I've got my bag of plastics in my bag, and you've got your cardboard that you've pulled out, and you've got this ready to go, and you put it all in, and then somebody drops one thing in, and all those efforts head to the landfill. So I would like to say over the years it keeps getting better as people become more educated, but we're gonna keep on educating and do what we can, because you don't even realize how one container of that dropped in, how big of a mess it makes. And then our product isn't number one anymore, and then we would lose our reputation as having a product. We have not had an issue getting rid of product through all of the times that recycling's gone through, with the Asian market stopping to accept materials from overseas. We still, because of the quality of product, still move it all the time. I get $20 a bale for plastics, but at least we're moving them.
Correct.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
So I went to an online course, and they were calling it The Truth About Recycling. So I'm just wondering if you can tell me whether this is accurate or not. So they were talking about how there's a large focus on like single-use plastics, and we always think of that as being like plastic straws and paper and the bags, right? But they're talking about how we become in a world where we're buying products often that might be at dollar store type of products that are being brought in from other areas that are like plastic spoons, the big ones, the plastic ladles and whatnot. And because of how cheap they are, they'll often break, and people are replacing them multiple times and almost making those products like a single-use plastic in some ways, I guess more than single, but very limited. With something like a plastic ladle or the plastic spoons, where would they fall in our recycling? Can they be recycled, or for the most part, would you say that kind of stuff is ending up back in the garbage?
I'm going to say that stuff is ending up back in the garbage.
Okay, then that is consistent a little bit, because they were talking about the need for advocacy sometimes on those parts, like more at our level, is like recognizing that we're focusing really strong on these little single use, but something that's replaced multiple times versus a product that maybe is of higher quality that lasts or is made of a different material, might be more expensive originally, but if you're replacing that plastic item and it's going into the landfill 10 times in a year, that might be an issue. So, okay, I just wasn't sure if it was 100% accurate that would likely end up more landfill based. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
So actually, timing-wise then, are those items recyclable, would be my first question. They're ending up in the garbage, but is that where they should end up?
Councillor Rudick, I haven't personally taken a dollar store spoon ladle and seen if there was a number on it. Recycling, like, I don't know, I can't
Yeah.
answer that.
I'm going to guess, and so that kind of ties into what my question was going to be, is about the extended producer responsibility legislation that the province finally passed. And I'm anticipating, hoping that that will change in some of the revenues that you're able to drive, as well as the costs, because that pushes it back to the manufacturer, which kind of leads to the origins of products that are sold in Canada or in Alberta not having labeling, for example, on items like that would say very clearly where it would fit into the food or into the life cycling of a recycling item. So anything that's generated and made in Canada has to have a plastics number, so it's very clear to see where it fits into that food chain kind of idea. But do you anticipate some more changes in your operations in the upcoming year, like things that are going to make a difference? Batteries, for example, and toners I can see already changed, but that's not even with the extended producer responsibility even having an impact on that.
Yeah, I want to go back to extended producer responsibility program. Tony and I had a meeting with ARMA and sat down and talked about Vegreville specific, instead of just getting this general blanket fits all for every community in the province, because we are a little bit unique because we're a little larger. We collect our own recycling, we process our own recycling, we were recently just shipping our own recycling. We were doing it all. And so for extended producer responsibility to come in and say, we're gonna package your paper products, that's where they're gonna start. So when packaging comes in, the producer is gonna be responsible for the paper portion of that. The ideal is that soon it'll be the plastic, it'll be the ties that hold them down, it'll be everything that comes with it, maybe even the product, the spoon, for example. But off the start, it'll be just the paper type packaging. So we've talked with them this year for 2024. They're doing all of the information from all the province, say, okay, Vegreville has this and this and this, they can do it all, so why would we hire a third party to come in and recycle? How would I know what ended up in the recycle bins is an EPR product or just a box, you know what I mean? So they have to figure that out, and that's what they're doing for 2024 and getting established, so we can start in the beginning of 2025 with some process. I'd like to see it where instead of them getting a third party to come in and just take a percentage of the recycling away, is pay us, because we're doing it anyway, and we can handle it, we're established, we're set up, it runs well, and that would help offset our costs for recycling. So the EPR program is figuring that out right now as we go. But it is legislation is gonna happen, and we're the last province in Canada to take part in it, so there should be some good examples out there as to what's working and what's not. So we are excited about that.
Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
One more thing. Just wondering about the recycle bins in the back alley. If we didn't have them and just had roll-out recycle bins at residents, what would your thoughts be on that? Is that a workable thing, or do you think it would help?
It gives you options with single bin rollouts. You can have the, almost like a QR code on each bin, and the system that they offer in our refuse trucks is it pulls up, it reads that the barcode, it knows the house, the address, the owner, everything. And if they pick it up and they drop it, there's a camera system, and it's not that the driver has to stare at the things falling out to see if something is in there shouldn't be. The artificial intelligence they have now, and this was at the last conference we're at, will start to identify items. It'll identify things that shouldn't be in there, things that aren't typical recycling. And then it'll give you, say, a warning to the driver when you review it. And if you go back after and, yeah, that was a glass bottle, this was a hubcap, these are the things that don't belong to the computer, then we'll take the photos and it will ship them off and send fines, a warning first and then fines. So you don't have to dig through it by hand anymore to see what's in there and what shouldn't be. So it gives you the ability to teach people by finding them, as opposed to public education that we're doing. The downside of having the rollouts is the fact that you have to make sure that on Wednesday of this day at this time, your bin is out in the street. We have to make sure that our truck is able to run that day for sure, because 350 or 400 people put their bins out today and expect them to be picked up. The rear lane bins gives the user the ability to throw their product out anytime they want, day or night, I don't care when. It gives us the ability to miss your pickup by a day or two, and it doesn't affect the whole bunch, because there's usually room in the bin. So it works good for us. It does not work good when you're trying to enforce your recycling program. I think financially, fines and things, people learn faster than, unfortunately, by public education.
So the city of Leduc has brought in a pilot project with those cameras and stuff right now, and they're finding it very successful. Again, they're a lot bigger than what we are. I mean, I think the message has to be, it costs money to recycle. And we do it because it's the right thing to do. We do it to save for our landfill, the longevity of our landfill. But it costs every taxpayer money when somebody throws stuff in a recycle bin. And I would encourage people to keep an eye on what's going on in their alleys. If somebody is throwing stuff in there that's not right, report them. Because it's going to save us all money in the end. And somebody will have to look at our bylaws when it comes to this and make sure that there is a penalty that matches, because it costs every individual person in this town money for somebody to do the wrong thing. Because education, just saying this is what we accept, because on the green ones, it says no branches, and lots of times you can't even get your grass cuttings in there because it's full of branches. I mean, I'd love to catch somebody doing that just once. I tell you right now, I don't know what the fine is for it, but we make it substantially enough that, but I would encourage people to report it because we do a good job of recycling. We're trying to do the right thing, and contaminate a whole load that's just gonna end up at the landfill because one person decided that they don't really give a crap about what it costs every other taxpayer in this town. So I encourage people, find them, report them. Let's do it. I mean, to go to individual bins would be very costly, and it would take probably an extra 2 days to pick them up. When in actual fact, what we have in the alleys, if everybody's a half-decent person, it's only those people that either can't read or could give a crap about this municipality that are doing this. And do we really care about those people? I mean, if they can't read, that's a different thing. But somebody doing it intentionally, knowing they're doing it, they should be charged. Okay, well, thank you for that report, the update, and, we'll just keep plugging away over there, so.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, next up, CAO Ling.
All right, we have a request from the Ukrainian Canadian Civil Liberties Foundation. Dear Mr. Mayor, the Ukrainian Canadian Civil Liberties Foundation supports educational and commemorative projects and learning about Ukrainian and Ukrainian Canadian issues such as Canada's first national internment operations of 1914 to 1920, the Great Famine of 1932 to 1933 in Soviet Ukraine, the Holodomor, and honoring those Ukrainian Canadians who volunteered for service with the Canadian Armed Forces in times of war and peace. Working with other organizations, we have placed historical markers, statues, and educational plaques across Canada and internationally, including one in St. Paul, Alberta, and most recently on the Alberta Legislature grounds. With your support, we're proposing to place an educational panel and life-size statue commemorating the dark but little-known chapter in Canada's history that was Dominion's First World War national internment operations of 1914 to 1920 and affected the entire Ukrainian Canadian community, including here. To optimize the public's access to the monument and thus its educational value, we propose it be placed in your Elks Kinsman Pesinka Park. As we have done with each of our recent projects, we are prepared to handle monument production and construction and the funding of those. Members of our executive would be happy to present to council to provide more information and address any questions or concerns you may have. We thank you for your time and consideration and look forward to a reply at your earliest convenience. Respectfully yours, Boris Sidorik, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Nothing. Go ahead, Councilor Bullock.
I appreciate this letter being sent to us and stuff, and I think it is something important. I would like to hear more information on what they could do there, so I think it's worth the discussion.
Go ahead, Councilor Lemko.
I concur with Councillor Bullock. I think it's important to capture the history of the Ukrainians in our area as we celebrate the Pesanka as one of our monuments. I think it's important to look at all the... My voice is gone, boss.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to hear more.
Oh, I definitely don't disagree. I mean, I think that for them to have a presentation, and I'd like to make sure that what we don't do is throw our forefathers under the bus. They only knew what they knew at the time, and this is what history is. You learn from history. But when we turn things into something that today it's easy to say, well, that should never have been done. Of course it should never have been done, but it was done. I'm open to this, and I would like to make sure that we're okay with the wording on this monument and what it represents, but just to say that our forefathers were just bad people, just flat out bad people, I don't know. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, and I just hopefully it's done with a little bit of class. Go ahead, Councillor Rudy.
So I think probably, like all things history, is the retelling of the story. And there are always various versions of the story. So I think it would be worth having the presentation, but it might also be worth being able to find out if we can anticipate that there might be any pushback, not just the wording on the plaque, but also just have a bit of anticipation about putting up a memorial as they've suggested here. Seems appropriate, and the location in Vegreville, potentially at the Pacinka Park, seems potentially appropriate, but we just want to make sure that we're anticipating what could be coming from other people that may not be as excited to be able to receive this. So I would assume that administration would be able to provide both sides of the argument in addition to the presentation, so that would be great.
Go ahead, Councillor Rowland.
And I don't disagree with any of it. The monument in St. Paul is very nice, having seen it a number of times. And again, we would definitely want to know what the wording is. However, having seen it on a federal level, it's actually, from what I've seen, always used in quite a positive, more in a, acknowledging versus any pushback about the happening of, is more the acknowledging of the, volunteering and the sacrifices. And it would actually make us only the second official monument in our federal riding, because we featured the one in St. Paul every year because it was the only complete official one.
So we're trying to be number 2?
Well, once in a while.
No, and again, with open arms, we'd ask them to come with a presentation, and again, I think we all know that the hardships that the Ukrainian citizens suffered when they came, before they even left their own country, and they came here, no different than what the Chinese went through during 2 different wars in the world, and we need to recognize these, but it needs to be done in a way where, we're not pulling down statues and blaming people for being the worst people on the planet when they only knew what they knew. Okay. Next up, Family Day.
Next up is, this is a request for council decision that will be coming forward on Monday, at Monday's meeting. Once again, our FCSS department will be hosting a Family Day Community Road Hockey Game and Warming Station. So this request, it will be to do the road closure of 49th Avenue between 47A Street and 45th Avenue on February 19th. Between 10:30 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Okay, well, we'll be bringing this up at the council meeting. Hopefully the weather will be more cooperative. Okay, looks like that's gonna be not a problem. Okay, so the next one is mine, I take it. Yes, from Curtis, the commanding officers of the RCMP. Dear Mayor McPhee, you may have already heard, but after a long fulfilling career with the RCMP, I have decided to retire as commanding officer. I have been very grateful for the positive and collaborative relationship the Alberta RCMP has enjoyed with your community. Your input has shaped the services we provide, and without your feedback, support, and participation, our collective goal of public safety could not be achieved. Please accept my heartfelt gratitude for your commitment and partnership in community safety and for the ongoing support you provide the Alberta RCMP and your police officers. While my career with the RCMP is drawing to a close, I have accepted the position of Assistant Deputy Minister with the Public Security Division of the Ministry of Public Safety and Emergency Services for the Government of Alberta. In this role, I am looking forward to the opportunity to continue working with you and ensure our communities are safe, secure, and confident and their policing services. Yours truly, Curtis Sablakia. Well, I know that I've met Curtis quite a few times, and he's been in the office when we brought up what we felt was problems, and he had his team here many times in the last year, and he's always been open at the conferences to have conversations and stuff, and we support what the Curtis has done for our community, and we'll support him in his new position as well, so. Hopefully there'll be a retirement party we'll all go to or something. Can't see it. Anyway, we'll bring that up on Monday. Okay. So now we have one from the Vegreville Wellness Coach. Who is this? Do they work for the town?
The Model Health Capacity Building was a program that started in FCSS and has since moved out to the schools. So it's run by the school boards now.
Okay. Good morning. I am putting together a video for Bell Let's Talk Day this year. Bell Let's Talk Day is on January 24th. I am looking for community organizations and businesses to participate by filling out a Bell Let's Talk speech bubble and taking a photo with the bubble. This video will be shown to students at our schools and emphasize the importance of mental health in our community. I am hoping to have all submissions submitted to me by January 18th to give me time to complete the video. What's today?
16th.
Do we have any bubbles? We can start making some comments, or, oh, you do?
We do have
Look at that,
bubbles.
Leslie's in charge of the bubbles, perfect. I am hoping that Mayor McPhee and council members will participate. I compiled a similar video in 2022, and they all participated. Here is the link to our 2022 video if anybody is interested on how their photo will be used. If it is easier for the mayor and council members, they could also just submit a photo and their typed response to one of the questions and can add it to the bubble. For the speech bubble, simply pick one of the following questions and fill out your bubble with your answer. Why is mental health important to you? What does mental health mean to you? What would you say to someone who is struggling with mental health? What do you do for your mental health self-care? So please email photos back to this email with your name and business organization. The video will be posted on social media on January 24th. Okay, so who's doing this?
If council's interested and would like to, we can do this after the meeting and give you guys an opportunity to fill out your bubbles, and we'll take some pictures.
Okay, well, let's do it. Okay, so we're gonna move on to round table, and we're gonna start with Councillor Bullock, and he's gonna give us an update on the Ad Hoc Transportation Committee.
Thank you, your worship. So regarding the ad hoc, we had a total of 10 people for our first meeting, so we have 10 members so far. So that's gonna hopefully build a little bit more. So one of the things we talked about at the meeting is running a pilot project. And we're gonna do that with Focus Transportation. And that's gonna be on 2 dates, Saturday, January 27th, and Tuesday, February 6th. So I would like to remove myself from council just to be on part of the ad hoc committee right now for what I'm gonna ask next. So what I'd like to ask for the ad hoc committee is a little bit of funding for running this pilot project for the tune of about $1,000 to help us get it kick-started to get going on this.
If I could just encourage Councillor Bullock maybe just to flesh out a little bit more detail so people are aware of what these pilot projects and what Focus is, to be able to have a better understanding for those watching and those at this table, to have an idea what the conversation looked like.
So what we're gonna be doing is looking at, we're gonna be going out to, our senior centers. We're gonna, with the pilot project, get people to go on board. We're gonna go to places like Co-op, go to the drugstore. Any appointment that they may need to go to in town, any facility they might need to go to. We are gonna be also looking, reaching out to the taxi companies and them as well as other bus companies. But for this beginning part of this, we decided to go with Focus Transportation because they have already the setup that they could use. And they're gonna come out here for a couple days and give this a try. So, Focus, has 2 vans for wheelchair accessibility, can hold 6 passengers, depending on the configuration. They do non-emergent transfers. They offer services regionally, and they are on the AHS preferred vendors list. So that is some of the information there. One of our biggest barriers to service is our lack of transportation in the community, to access services, employment, childcare, and et cetera, and affordability. Okay, so we're just gonna be running this pilot project. I am gonna be going on Talk to the Town coming up on, I do believe, I don't have that date in front of me, but anyways, I'll be going on there shortly within the next week or so to get the information out there.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Burdick.
Yeah, and I attended this first meeting as well, and so just to add to Councillor Bullock's explanation of what the ask is, there are a wide range of transportation challenges, but we also have a wide range of transportation options. And in this instance, I think what was trying to be captured is a business that is providing some service to Vegreville residents, could potentially provide more, but also could be contracted or utilize other services to be able to provide other services to people that live in Vegreville. So Focus is a preferred vendor for AHS, so they do a lot of non-emergent transfers between hospital and home or facilities and appointments for people to be able to book. But in this instance, they have some space and they have some availability, and the group thought it might be a good opportunity to be able to see what exactly people in Vegreville are looking for, because of course transportation access comes down to affordability, availability, and the times that are available to be able to utilize such a service as compared to what's currently offered by VTSS, for example. So this opportunity came up, and Focus is, so we thought there might be an opportunity to be able to use this as seniors or those without vehicle access to be able to do their errands and see how this might work, to be able to already capture some of the people that are interested and also be able to see in the future what we should be looking for future programming. Because again, the options for transportation, even when we've talked about it as council with some of our seniors in the community, it's not just seniors that are looking for that, but also the affordability task force that came and presented to us too. Transportation was one of their top issues as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so this pilot project will be lasting how long?
Just 2 days we're gonna run it, just to see how it works.
2 days. And it's a 6-passenger van that you would like to hire?
Correct.
And will there be times set for pickup and drop off, or how do you see it happening?
We're gonna start at 9 a.m. that morning. We're still working out the logistics right now. Hopefully I'll have more of that worked out by the time we go to Talk to Town.
The proposal, when we talked about this, and again, Councillor Bullock can correct me, but it won't be like a one-time pickup and one-time drop-off. The idea is that if the vehicle's in town, it could be used perpetually on a rotating basis, offer a few different stops. So imagining a senior without a vehicle could go to the drugstore, the grocery store, their hairdresser, and Walmart and come home, but they could get off at any point. So there is a little bit of flexibility in terms of how to plan the final offering.
Thank you.
Okay, so right now, this pilot project is looking at $500 a day in a 6-passenger van.
I'm asking for that in case we need,
Oh,
I'm asking that we for sure need 200 for each driver, depending if we're gonna use one bus or we're gonna end up using 2 possibly.
okay, and, okay, so you're gonna get the word out, we're gonna try to, but initially when we talked, right, and this couldn't be something that was, as this moves forward, it's not funded by the municipality, but we need to, and again, was exploring different grant options at different levels and stuff. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bear.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, what I was looking here is just, if they do run a pilot project, they gain some information possibly that would help them in looking for grant funding. Because then they would have an idea of just what it might take. So I could support this on a pilot basis, just to gather that type of information so they could potentially obtain provincial, federal, or outside grants.
Perfect. So obviously, FCSS has a role to play on this new committee. And we've looked at the taxi vouchers and how they're being spent today through that.
So the vouchers that are utilized through VTSS, so VTSS has not had a meeting yet, so my ability to be able to relay information and also FCS's ability to relay what they have from VTSS is maybe, we don't have the exact data of how much the taxi vouchers are being used, but they're being utilized by families that also use them too. So it's a highly utilized program. The challenge is that BTSS is only available during a certain time frame. And again, it goes back to that whole idea of affordability, availability, and times. It's not available on the weekend necessarily. It's not available outside of the regular operation. And we have the good fortune of having 2 cab companies here in Vegreville, which a lot of communities don't have. So in some senses, we have some good opportunities here, but there are also challenges. For example, CALS is finding with the affordable housing units being sold to private operators, there are families that have had to move out of town and no longer have access to that service, and their children no longer have access to the programming. So there are some unintended consequences when you move outside of the municipality. All that to say that we do need to have some data collected before we even decide which grant we're going to assign Leslie to, because the conversation was lively there, but we still didn't have everybody there that we need to.
Go ahead.
Just on the VTSS side, I know 2 of the challenges that they talked about before was that they are limited as to who they can give their rides to because of the mandate that's within even their fundraising, like even through their gaming licenses and stuff have very specific who can use their program. So that was one of the reasons why it was harder to expand sometimes to just being able to be a route pickup. The other thing that I do remember them mentioning at the time was with some of the companies and the vouchers, while it was being used well, the voucher wouldn't get them to multiple spots. Each voucher was worth just the 1 spot. So if you did have a senior wanting to maybe do those 2 or 3 stops, technically they would have used 3 vouchers on it. So I just remember that being a few little things that were problematic.
Well, it's nice to see that this committee has got 10 people on board already, and you've got a little bit of an action plan to start to collect some data. So you'll bring this up at Monday's meeting, and we'll go from there.
Hey, thanks. I got a couple more things.
Yep, for sure.
Neat little story here is some tourists that showed up during the summer to visit the egg. And it was just this summer. They came out to see the egg, and the fair was on. So they ended up going to the fair, this couple. They checked it out, and they fell in love with our town. So just a few months later, they had sold their home in Airdrie, relocated to Vegreville, and her husband already is working in this town, and they're new members of Vegreville, and already supporting local businesses here, all from the stopping in to see our egg. So that was a good news story there. Another thing that came up, business owner, owns, well, okay, the home hardware. One morning, he was in the back alley, heard a rumbling here just lately, and out of the recycle bin popped a person. Out of the recycle bin, and the recycle truck was minutes behind. So just a heads up for that. So we're seeing that in our community right now, looking for shelter.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only question that was brought to me was regarding the announcement of the municipal enforcement number. And I think that what might be needed is to explain the difference between a 911 number for emergency, which would take you to the police RCMP, versus this number, which I believe is intended mainly for bylaw infractions. I think that this was, a couple of citizens were just not quite certain whether this number was replacing the number for them to get a hold of the RCMP. So I was hoping that my explanation that this was more for local bylaw.
Yeah, it is a bylaw complaint line. It's to work with our online form that is on our website. But if you don't, for those that aren't tech savvy, that aren't on their phones all the time, this gives them a number that they can phone, report it while they see it.
I think the
10 o'clock at
situation
night,
was with
and-
these individuals, bylaw is something that they understand. Municipal enforcement was not something they understood. So that was the only gist of the aspect as to what did this mean.
Okay, well, thank you for that, because we can work on some more public education
Yeah.
on this. Yes.
And that's the only thing that was brought to me, other than the power outage and lights on and et cetera.
Told him to phone Councillor Lemko because he used to work at ATCO, right?
Yeah, I referred all of them.
Speaking of Councillor Lemko.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just have a couple items. I was invited today to a CARES Coalition initiative. It's called the Vegreville Men's Shed. I don't know if anybody's heard of Men's Shed. It's the first time I heard of it, was today's meeting. It's development of a program where members of the community, being men, all ages, up and down, to get together and to avoid isolation and loneliness and depression, or just the ability for new members of the community to get together and share building stuff. Maybe it comes to fixing appliances, or just men gathering for a common good to share stories and that kind of stuff. So they have a couple grants they're working on, and there'll be a rural mental health grant that they're applying for. And it's interesting when you talk about it and look into it a little bit, the benefits of this, benefits for men, benefits for the community, and benefits at home settings as well, to get men out and doing stuff. So it's called Men's Shed, and stay tuned. There's going to be a couple meetings planned. There'll be a lunch meeting. I think the dates they picked was March 13th, a lunch meeting at the Sunshine Club, and then an evening meeting at a restaurant with appetizers and all that, to get a different demographic of individuals who can attend. And so more information will be coming out. I think it's great because it'll provide many of the people in the community that might need that. So good news. And the second item is tonight is the Vegreville Stands with Ukraine meeting, which I'll be attending at 7 o'clock. Interesting that there are still more Ukrainians that are looking to move to Vegreville because of the success that other Ukrainians have had here. A family got a hold of us yesterday, and they're in Calgary and would like to move to Vegreville, to a smaller setting, and for support, that more support in the togetherness with other Ukrainians and stuff, because they feel isolated in Calgary. And the cost of living in Calgary is much higher than what they anticipated. And that's my report, sir.
Thank you very much. Councilor Curtis.
Thank you. Pretty late for me on this. Just a lot of chatter around the cold temperatures and mostly the power for me is a lot of my questions is reducing your power and why do we have to reduce it and what's going on a lot of those. But I would like to thank the Good Samaritan for the library. Like they came there and we didn't have anybody there. It was closed and they could have easily knocked and looked and turned away, but they called. So that's thank you for that. And so I got. Thanks to everybody else that's out there working hard to keep everything running.
Thank you. Councilor Warla.
I have just a few.
Your drinks weren't cold enough.
My drinks were cold enough. Yeah, I was away. Came back to wonderful weather. But mainly a few things about the cold and facilities. Had a little bit of calls and questions, although I would echo what Councillor Rudick said. The parking lots were full, and it wasn't just our area. Actually, ended up speaking with a number of people in a number of communities, and pretty much everything went ahead. So that kind of brought me to two phone calls I had. Obviously, everybody needed to plug in, and starting vehicles was difficult. And we know that it's not even ideal necessarily to have to run the cords from your home across the sidewalk to the vehicle, but I know it had to happen because some of those vehicles needed to go. But I would encourage, I did get 2 calls about 2 different locations and happened to drive by and see one that do everything we can to park as close as you can to the house, because in both instances, they actually were plugging in their vehicle across the road. So it was across the cord actually went over the sidewalk across the road and was plugging in on the other side. That's not a good idea at any time, so I'm just gonna leave it there. I did encourage the neighbor, though, that called to say that you don't know, there could have been vehicles parked for a long period of time, and obviously it was hard to start, but probably remind people don't do that. During the weekend, I actually had the opportunity to be in Cold Lake at an arena. So, which is always awesome when it's -40 when you're driving there. But I would say that as we move forward with our project, because I had a number of hours to kill, and I spent a lot of time walking through the Cold Lake Arena, I really saw the importance of, like we talked about, not reinventing the wheel. And if we do end up progressing forward, I think it would be a really great idea for council and then members of whatever committees to do a number of tours to the different facilities. Cold Lake is a beautiful facility. However, what I can tell you is I walked through there, and no offense to Cold Lake, and I know the mayor very well, but there's a lot of space that was wasted in that building. A lot of long hallways and circle hallways, and so I know that we would be very diligent in what we put together, but we should learn from other people, see what we saw. I saw a number of areas that just had storage stacked within rooms, and we would want to make the best choices, especially given the cost that it'll be for an asset like that. But I think it would be great to see there, to go to the Bold Center, to go to Athabasca, some of these bigger spots, and really see what they do and talk to their people, as well as incorporating whatever we find out from that. But I ended up having almost 3 hours worth of time to walk around, and I went up and down the elevators, the stairs. I went through all the different entrances. I actually would suggest that more entrances is not better. What you actually saw was more staff, more areas that needed cleaning, more problems with doors. So I did notice that. But anyways, I wanted to bring that forward. And I'm going to do a plug for an event that is coming up this weekend. So I just wanted to mention that on Friday, there is the Vegreville Vipers game that is hosting the Ben Stelter Foundation. If for anyone who knows, at that game, all proceeds will go, with the exception of the licensed bar. Everything else, including merchandise sold, will go directly to the Ben Stelter Foundation, and Ben's family will be in attendance at the event. So we did want to let them know the parents will be. It's 7:45 puck drop. I would suggest anybody who's interested in coming to come earlier, because the team will come out and practice originally in specific jerseys that are created for that event, and then we'll be changing those jerseys. Will be sold. All proceeds, again, from the jersey sale will go 100% to the foundation. So, and that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rudick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start off with a thank you that I received from a member of the Ukrainian embassy that's working in Ottawa. So we're having conversations with the Federation of Canadian municipalities, because we've run a number of programs over the years on behalf of the Canadian federal government, and so those conversations are ongoing. But she specifically wanted to say thank you to the support that Vegreville and communities like ours have provided to Ukrainian displaced people. And I'm happy to hear Councillor Lemko say that we anticipate more families coming to our community. So that was a nice touch to be able to see. We will be finding some more folks to be able to join our partnership, our sister city committee with Kolomea. I've reached out to a couple of local residents, different than our original people that we had on our committee, because that's a long time ago, and we've had a war and a few changes in activities for some of the members of our original suggested members. So I'm looking for a couple other people that might be interested, and I've got a couple that will be able to get together. So it will be soon that we'll be able to reach out to Kolomea in that fashion as well. One other thing is I attended the Vegman Learning Society meeting last week as a guest, not as a official director or board member. Very interested to see, I don't know if anybody else has signed up for their emails that send out their course offerings. And over the last number of years, the letter that they had sent to the town was with regards to having challenges getting volunteers to sit on their board. And no different than many of our other volunteer organizations that are struggling after COVID, but they've got a bit of a unique challenge that during COVID they lost their executive director, and so they were used to have an executive director and an admin assistant, and the admin assistant had to sort of take on the role of two jobs and try to be able to limp things along and work through some really challenging times to be able to offer courses to the community. And the mandate is a community adult learning center. So some of us in this room may have attended first aid classes or different offerings, but they have 3 different types of courses that they offer to the community. So they've got foundational classes that they offer for literacy and numeracy, English as a second language or English language learners, life skills, and digital skills. So those are some of the things that you might see in terms of being able to speak English, obviously, as one of those, or they've also offered other language courses in the past that would be in their different offering, which is general interest and community capacity building. So some of those are cost recovery courses that they offer, but if you'll have signed up for their emails, their courses used to be just a short little list, and they've really expanded under their new executive director. So they are trying to encourage increased enrollment in some of their partnerships they've got with Norquest, prep courses in math and pre-trades math and science for those that are taking their LPN courses. Those are for people that are taking it online or in person. There are other art classes and yoga, etc., that they've offered in the past. Those are always highly subscribed. Those are personal interest courses, but they're also offering prenatal classes, sorry, I can't find it, firearm safety courses, the PALS registration, and all of those kinds of courses are also offered through here as well. So I just wanted to put a little focus on Vegmin Learning Society, encourage each of you to take a look at their online website and take a look again. A lot of their courses, like first aid, are offered to employers. So if people in their employment need to have a current first aid course, employers will often contract through Vegmin to be able to get an instructor. And I know that actually one of our staff often is the person that we've used in the past to be able to get that certification. So just encourage everybody, whether you need to learn how to use your smartphone or you want to get your PALS registration or figure out how to paint better or also learn how to read. Those are all things that are offered through Vegmin. So just wanted to share that with everybody here.
Okay, thank you very much. I was contacted by the Vegreville Kinsman Golf Course, the board. They were looking to see if we could get a board member from council and from the county I told them at this point that it's probably not a good idea, but I would, I'd be willing to go to their meeting and see where they're at and listen to their concerns and bring back some stuff to council, but you know, we're in a situation with that organization that we really wouldn't want to be on the board, but again, they're having some problems, and you know, lose a golf course right now wouldn't be good, so. But the other thing I have is I want to thank Director Lefebvre and his staff and some local businesses that have saved the day for us. I don't know if everybody knows what's been going on with the lift station in the northwest part of town, but through all that cold weather, they were around the clock, pulling out pumps and trying to keep that end of the town from having plugged sewer lines. And Dale, if you could just fill us in a little bit about your staff and how they went over and above.
Yeah, I would like to. Dan's presentation was really good, and it's good to do once in a while to show council and our viewers, if you will, what we're up against. So the Northwest Sewer Lift manages the sanitary sewer for the hotel or Vegreville Suites, Tower 2, Walmart, Alberta Innovates, Innotech. It looks after Love's Meats, but those are the main ones, the Walmart, the Super Center. So we had an issue, and there's two pumps that are lift pumps, and they had something had happened. They had both gone down at the same time. They had been injured, not poor maintenance or anything. So we think it was an electrical something, but we're trying to find that out. And yeah, it was, like Dan said, on the 10th of January, it was very cold, and it was hard. They worked up until about 3 or 4 in the morning, did damage to some of our equipment that's designed to be out, like our vac trucks or the sewer cleaners are designed to be out for -17. It was below -40, so it received some minor damage, but still put out of service, just broken valves and things we can change fairly quickly in some lines. We started the call out to get more vac trucks equipment, crane to lift, and it was really difficult. It was difficult because equipment that was available was outside and probably not plugged in, or if it was outside and plugged in at that temperature, they were starting but unable to get things mobile. So we thank our local Bergen Brothers and Quest for coming out with their vac equipment and helping us out. We had to get some additional horsepower from Edmonton and other areas to help us out with equipment we couldn't get here. It was 2 full long days of moving pumps and getting the sewer back up until we got things rolling. So we're running on a 1 pump system now, and the one we pulled out is in to be rebuilt. And I also thank the crew out there, because that was a lot of hours to spend. I know they get to sit in the vehicle, warm up, and then get back out again, but that was just 2 full long days of wondering what we're gonna do if we can't get this thing set in before the weekend. The challenges you have, as you can appreciate, your lowest flows are obviously 8:30 at night till 6 in the morning. So when this went down and we started pumping, you know, it went down at 6:30. By 1 o'clock, we're pulling our vac trucks out because we're unable to restore the pumps by doing our usual ATCO Electric and our electricians. The flows pick up in the morning. You've got Innotech that introduces how many people that all of a sudden start using facilities and washrooms. You got the hotel guests are showering and doing their thing, and Walmart opens the doors, and it just adds a whole lot of flow right away. So thanks to our local vac truck guys and companies, they never complained once. They just brought out the equipment they could. Sometimes they had to go back, fix, repair, thaw some things out, and then come back and keep going. So it was a good effort on the private sector as well as the public sector, and I'm happy that everybody put the effort in. And by Friday evening, we had enough pump systems back online that we're hanging in there until we get some things rebuilt again.
And again, good job to all of our employees that were willing to stay out there in that wreck, and jumping in and out of a truck to warm up is not like crawling into bed, that's for sure. And the bad news is this is not going to be a cheap fix. It is going to cost some money. So, but it's what happens when you get into these temperatures. And again, luckily we had a motor that was rebuilt, set and ready to go. And that's just the way that we prepare for this. So, Okay, next up, we have director's highlights, and we're gonna start with Director LaFave. I probably stole your thunder, but I wanted the employees to know that council appreciates, you know, those 2 long days and nights they put in out there, so.
It was, and that was going to be the director's highlight, your worship, but I appreciate you taking it on first to show that, that the council and the mayor do appreciate when things go tough, whether it's facilities or anybody in the town or our Department of Public Works and Utilities, that it's appreciated, and it was, so take that as my report.
Okay, thank you very much. CAO Ling?
Okay, I have a few things. First of all, our new utilities clerk started yesterday. Raquel Manabat was a successful candidate, and her name will be familiar because she used to work in the FCSS department as the administrative assistant. The finance department worked with our auditors on the interim audit this past week and are working on year end for the annual audit that will take place in the first week of March. On January 9th, we had our town office had their luncheon with the county office. It was a wonderful networking and learning experiences for both our offices and the staff that will be working a little more closely together now, so it was really fun. I attended the quarterly Quad CAO meeting on last Monday. Met the new CAO for Innisfree. Her name is Kayla Paranich, and we discussed some items that affect the region, including the takeaways from the emergency management exercise that was held late last year. And council had asked prior regarding the small business tax incentive. So in 2023, last year, we had 111 applicants that applied for the small business tax. This year, out of those 111, 66 did not reapply. Now, also caution, there is a few, some of those businesses will have hit the 50 employee mark. There are some stipulations to be able to qualify, so if they've hired more staff, if they've moved on to that or closed down, they wouldn't reapply. And so far, we have 24 new applicants for the 2024 tax year, like this coming tax year, so we have a total of 69 applicants for the small business tax.
Okay, well, thank you for getting that information to council, was requested. Okay, is that your report?
That's my report.
Okay, so we got council meeting on Monday. We're having a little council reset in February. We're also getting ready for Family Day. Yeah. So hopefully everybody will be able to make it. The county's confirmed that they want to be part of it again. And we're looking forward to all of our staff coming out down and enjoying the day. What? Okay. But just keep it on your calendars. And is there anything different about this year? Like, are we going with bacon or are we going with the sausages again? Bacon's so tough.
Bacon's a pain.
Okay, well, just so everybody be prepared for that. I see that we do have a closed session item on here. So at this time, is there any further business of council, anything that I missed? Leslie, did I get it all? Okay. I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. Councilor Lemko makes the motion at 4:43. All those in favor? Carried.